How's it going, guys? I wanted to show you my Bill Cooper collection that I've been collecting over the past few years. I'm going to be putting all of this in a shadow box shortly after this video. But before I did, I wanted to open some of these and let you see what all involves. Right here is my most recent purchase. I'm very happy to be able to obtain one of these. It is a limited edition hardcover copy of Behold a Pale Horse. Only around 500 of these exist. I do know there's a little bit more than 500 because edition 518 is up for sale. Luckily, I was able to get number 42, so that's a very rare edition I was able to get. These books are very expensive. The cheapest one for sale right now is for $3,500. They go anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10,000, sometimes even more. And none of those are lower than this. So I'm very fortunate to have this. It says, "Thank you for your support during these trying times." Signed, William Cooper, March 4th, 1991. Edition number 42. And the way you can verify the authenticity of these books is on page 4. It'll have his signature with the red Japanese stamp, and it's also numbered 42. If you remember, in one of his videos, he was speaking about this stamp, and they were accusing him of including a Freemasonic stamp inside of his book. And he let them know that he actually got this stamp from one of his teachers while he was in high school overseas. So I'm very happy to have this. It's in pretty good condition to be such an early model. And there you can see at the back, it's also labeled number 42. So very rare. Incredible that I was able to get this for the price I did. It was pretty expensive. But you're probably not going to find another version lower than this. It's really about as low as it can get. A few other things I have here. Well, let's get into the Citizens Agency for Joint Intelligence. I'm not entirely sure if this had been sent in the mail by Bill Cooper or if it had been printed off during that time. I do believe it came from around 1994 because the episode list ends at 266, 1994. It gets into a little bit of biography with William Cooper. As you can see, Sholo, Arizona. We're all familiar with that address. He's also advertising Carl Klang, which makes brilliant music. He actually passed away not too long ago. If you haven't looked into his music, I highly suggest you do. Bill Cooper played it quite a bit. But it's just an episode list, and at the very end, it gets into the Mystery Babylon series, the audio tapes that he was selling. And the funny part, this was actually found in the back of one of these old unrevised books. This is a paperback edition. You can see there's no barcode, but at the bottom it's $25. So it's not the oldest edition, but it's pretty old for what's available out there. Most of them have the barcode, and they're still unrevised. It's just this one's a little bit of an earlier printing for the paperback. But this Citizens Joint Agency letter was found in the back of this paperback book. And you can see at the bottom written in pencil on episode number 29. I believe that's actually 30 in my playlist because Dawn of Man is not labeled as number 1. Regardless, the Godmakers and Bobo Grits, in that episode, he speaks about how Bobo Grits had a training exercise called spike training. And Bill Cooper asserted that it represented the male phallus, as we all know, within the Mystery Babylon series. So another piece I have, this also came with this major collection. A lot of these came from different sellers, but this one came with the bulk. and it is actually a postcard. It states Bill Cooper will be at the New Age and Alien Agenda Conference at the following address, and it's signed by Stan Barrington. Now, any of us who have watched quite a bit of Bill Cooper, Stan was pretty much his secretary for quite a bit until he had retired. I know he went back and forth to help Bill Cooper. And on the back, you'll see Stan Barrington, Camp Verde, Arizona, which is another address we're very familiar with. So that's a very awesome piece. I'm also glad to have that. I did receive the Bill of Rights. I was told by the same man I purchased most of this collection from that Bill Cooper had sent this out as well. I'm not going to flip it over because I don't want to show you his address. I really don't have any source to claim it came from Bill. But considering how extensive this collection is that I purchased from him, I have to assume it more than likely came from the Hour of the Time. Regardless, I'm going to include this small postcard of the Bill of Rights inside of the shadow box. Now, one of the coolest parts is I have a newspaper from the Arizona Republic, November 7th. I believe Bill Cooper passed away November 6th. No, could have been the 5th, but I believe it was the 6th. So this newspaper came out directly after his death in the East Valley. So it's very local to where he lived. And you will see here on the front page, officer kills militia voice, broadcaster was a wanted man. And over here, the guy that sold me this collection pointed out that, of course, George Bush is directly next to this article speaking of Bill Cooper. We know that he was speaking about 9/11 and exposing this whole myth of Osama bin Laden and how there's going to be a major attack. But if you look above George Bush's head, the door frame is showing what seems to be an aura, the sun shining over his head. So that's just a little bit of symbolism that we're all knowledgeable about because of Bill Cooper. It's pretty obvious the way this is laid out. It's sort of a mocking scenario, but interesting to say the least. And then, of course, you have the full article here. It says militia broadcaster is killed. And it gets into it. I'm not going to be able to read all this off. Maybe if you want to pause and you want to read it yourself, that would be fine. And maybe I'll even be able to scan some of these artifacts for you so you can read it for yourself in a better format. But this is one of my favorite pieces. I'm very happy to have this, especially considering it came from the local area that he lived just about 24 hours after he had passed away. So that's a very great artifact to have. Another piece I have, it seems to be another list of his series, The Hour of the Time. This one ends at number 26, and this is from 1992. I believe most of this collection here came from 1992 because these magazines up here I'm about to show you, they were both created in 1992 as well. Well, the audio tapes here end at 1992. This 1992. So a lot of these artifacts came directly from 1992. Clearly the newspaper came from 2001. And I guess that's the last thing I'm going to show you here. These are some punk rock magazines from 1992. Can't say I'm a huge fan of the magazines themselves, but there is a dialogue between an interviewer and Bill Cooper. And it's a really interesting dialogue here. It gets into the JFK assassination. And there's quite a bit here to read. I thought about making a video and reading all this, but it's so much, I might just once again scan it in a format to where you can read it yourself. But my favorite part is right here. It says we need to do a Freemasonsectomy. And all of these secret society people who are in our government, just cut them out. A Freemasonsectomy. I found that pretty funny. And we have another one here. It's another punk rock magazine from 1992. Like I said, I can't say I'm a fan of the magazine itself, but pretty cool to have these type of interviews from a source of 1992 based on William Cooper. And this is also another dialogue of where they had interviewed him. And there's a lot in here that, you know, you can't find on his Hour of the Time or the Mystery Babylon series, because it was an interview that had been recorded with this magazine. But it gets into Area 51. And of course, we know he doesn't believe in aliens in the beginning. He sort of believed that aliens possibly did exist. But I believe on page 234 in his book, number 5, he tells you that aliens could be a hoax to usher us into a one-world government. And that seems to be the case. He began pushing that pretty early on in his career. And it's a misrepresentation to assume that Bill Cooper pushed this alien scenario when it was really only for maybe less than 5% of his entire career in these studies. He made it well known that the alien agenda is a means to usher in a one-world government. Ronald Reagan in 1983, he said the one way to bring everybody together is an outside force. Same with John Dewey, 1917, who is the head of our education in America. Now, we all know the unrevised versions of Behold a Pale Horse has the protocols in the back. And I wanted to include the protocols in the shadow box. And I have a copy here. Unfortunately, it's a little destroyed. This came from 1977. I bought this a very long time ago, maybe about 10 years ago. And this Freemasonic logo, it's a sticker that I had on the back of my Toyota Tundra. And I sold that Toyota Tundra, and I had it on there for many years. I had a lot of Freemasons come up to me in person and ask me why I had this symbol. I was more than happy to speak with them about it. And unfortunately, it got stuck to the front of this book. But I did want to include the protocols in the shadow box to show the importance of these. And Behold a Pale Horse, he will tell you before you get into the protocols. Not sure if I'm going to be able to flip to the exact page. I'm not going to try. But he'll tell you that Goyim means cattle and Zion means Sion. We all know that Goyim means cattle. He's correct in that assertion. And I also have to agree that Zion is Sion. And I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about that concept, but ultimately he is accurate. You know, Bill didn't want everybody to go out and attacking a specific group of people based off of the actions of a few. And he really wanted to point you to the source of who created all of these issues in the first place, instead of just attacking random people in the street. So I have to agree with him on that. But I'm tickled to death to have this collection, especially this book. This is the holy grail of Bill Cooper artifacts, really, in terms of there is only a little over 500 of these created. I was able to get number 42. They're extremely expensive. You're going to cough up a couple $1,000s just to get one. And luckily, I was able to get such a low number. I don't know if we'll ever see another lower number than that, considering it's hard to tell how many of the 500 have been destroyed and thrown in the trash. So, very happy to have this. I'm going to put it all in my shadow box. I got a very large shadow box, 40 by 30. I'm going to hang it up on my wall. and I'll be sure to include that at the end of the video. I hope all of you enjoy the Rumble streams. I'm glad to keep Bill Cooper's legacy alive. That's been my goal, is to make sure that his legacy never dies. There's so much information. There's so many episodes, thousands of episodes. And a lot of people only see the lectures, the Babylon series. They don't really understand how much information Bill Cooper presented and how crucial that information is. And a lot of it just can't be recreated. He did all this research with libraries. He really didn't have that much access to computers until later in his life. And it's remarkable what he was able to accomplish while he was alive. But I just wanted to show y'all this. I hope all of you enjoy the channel, and y'all have a great afternoon.